for a lot of people, it's understanding their privilege. And it's not just coming from a white person learning about the privileges they have through whiteness, but also like, as Black and brown people, as heterosexual people, as non-disabled people, people who don't have any chronic illnesses. There are multiple ways in which privilege shows up. And I think because we approach it from a very holistic way, that's usually one of the biggest moments. But that also the idea of like learning about your privilege, how to use your privilege, but also how that relates to things like your unconscious biases.
Welcome to Nexus Talks. And I genuinely mean it. We're so excited to have you. I could introduce you in 1,000 different ways, but I think our listeners would really appreciate hearing from you who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my name's Leyya. I am the founder of The Other Box, which is a media company. We specialize in diversity, equity, and inclusion education. We have a community that we support through our jobs board, which is relaunching in May. And we also work with businesses on advisory across creative content, production, as well as advisory in businesses to basically just like create happier, healthier workplaces. I guess I'd also say that I describe myself as like a creative, a generalist, all round type person. I'm good at different things. I'm also fascinated with like human behavior, why we do things. So I'm also a qualified hypnotherapist as well.
What? I think I missed that one. Okay, give me a timeline. So, in what order? I know it doesn't always come one after the other, but did you study to be a hypnotherapist first, or tell me how it went?
No. So I've always had a fascination. I mean, obviously, it starts off with, like in school and college, and when you're talking about sociology, psychology, and like why humans do what they do. But then I think also like a natural interest, especially when we started to do a lot more sort of unconscious bias workshops, and especially a lot of the work around DEI about like human behavior. So, and also just in my own sort of personal life, I was doing a lot of hypnotherapy just as a form of therapy, and it really kind of helped. And so in 2020, I mean, the timing was awful, but like actually, maybe it wasn't bad. Maybe it was actually meant to happen in 2020. I enrolled on a school. I got a grant to kind of enroll into this really great hypnotherapy school. And then, yeah, here I am.
That's
Qualified. Yeah.
Where do you find the time to have interest?
That's a very good question. I mean, especially like when I was studying for the hypnotherapy qualification, it did take a lot of my evenings and weekends, but it was worth it because I learned a lot about myself in that process. And I think actually a lot of the mechanisms that I learned helped me during the pandemic as well.
That's amazing. And I'm sure you were going to mention at one point, but Forbes 30 under 30. How did you miss that from the list? Please tell me more about it. It was the Social Impact Entrepreneur Award, right? 2021.
Yeah, it's 2021. I don't know how to kind of like bring it into conversation or like how to add it into my bio, but thank you for bringing it. For giving me a chance to talk about it.
Tell me about that. How did that come about?
So I mean, with the Forbes thing, I think we were already on this sort of radar in 2018 because I was on one of the 100 female founders lists. But also as well, like total transparency with the Forbes thing, it is an application process. So you can apply for yourself or you can apply on behalf of someone else. But it is a very intensive process. So there are multiple sort of interviews and questions just so they can kind of do their due diligence as well. So it's something that I did apply for, and then several interviews and questionnaire later, here I am. So that was a really nice boost, especially to the work even as a founder, to be recognized by Forbes, especially after what we'd gone through in 2020.
Yeah, that's honestly amazing. A huge congratulations to you. I love that you're being transparent, but the reality is there's so many people out there. How else are people going to know you exist, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was a great opportunity to kind of get on like a global stage and to kind of really shed awareness as to the work that we do. And I think it's really hard with these things because there's a lot of sort of validation that kind of comes and a credibility that comes with being associated with things like these lists and these awards. But ultimately, like the work that I'm trying to do on myself is to make sure that that's not the only thing that kind of makes me um I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it for other reasons as to the impact that I'm having as a business. So yeah.
Let's talk about that business, the other box, the name is amazing. If I've understood it correctly, I've grown up all my life ticking other on
Yeah.
any form. Um, Even now, some of the added categories still divide people. So even then, we're still not there. So I think the name's incredible. So tell me a bit more about how this came about, why it happened, and obviously a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, it came about just because I mean, I started off in the creative industry, so I was a designer by trade, and I was going to a lot of industry events talking about diversity, but it was always in relation to gender. And my experience as a woman, but also a woman of color from a working class background and various other parts of my identity were always being left out of that conversation. So I kind of just had enough at one day. I was just like, if we're going to talk about diversity and inclusion, you have to think about it holistically. And that's kind of like how the other box started.
What do you think about people that think that this is just a trendy word and, we just talk about it because I've seen some crazy things around the word diversity, and it's just an excuse to get certain people on screen or certain people in certain workplaces, etc. But it's not actually a real problem. How do
Yeah.
you feel about that? Have you ever witnessed that or heard that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. It has been kind of used as a buzzword. And I think the reality of a lot of the businesses who kind of didn't take it seriously kind of really kind of had to face their front when it came to especially June 2020 with the murder of like George Floyd, but also the protests that followed after that as well. And actually, what we saw was that it moved from being a nice to have, having these workshops, these trainings, these like kind of like education side of things, to actually being a must have overnight. And so and now actually we're beginning to slowly see as well it being deprioritized because of like what's happening in the world and with the recession and everything like that about it being deprioritized as well. But ultimately, like if we've not learned anything, it's the fact that we need to, if you want to kind of be authentic, if you want to kind of do great work. And actually there are so many statistics out there about the business case, which I personally like I hate talking about, but it is important as a business leader, but also the other businesses and the leaders that we work with to understand the benefits of what diversity and inclusion means for businesses. So it's it's frustrating when we're still having to kind of like prove, I'm using air quotes, that prove the value of it, but also like there's so much data out there now that kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, totally. I went to an event recently, and it was so I'm Muslim. I went to a Ramadan event. Actually, no, it was last year. Sorry, timeline is gone.
Go.
And I remember just going there and being the only Arab or North African.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I understand there's a huge Asian community, but this brand was claiming to be really passionate about inclusivity and diversity. And they had obviously hired a team that didn't really know much about the religion or the festival. And they just thought, let me grab some random influencers. And I remember looking at the room and I was like, everybody here is British Asian. And there's nothing wrong with that, except that that's not a reflection of Muslims in the country. So does your company kind of like consult with like different brands and different workplaces to help them transition through this phase of just picking the audiences they always talk to?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely like a kind of inside outside approach to everything that we do because ultimately, a lot of the brands, businesses, they range as well from size. Like we're working with huge corporates as well as then smaller companies as well. And essentially, it's like you can put more diverse people in front of the camera, but actually, as consumers, we can tell what's authentic. And more often than not, people are getting caught out as well as to who is involved in this project and actually who are the people. Are you telling me sort of diverse stories? And is it still through sort of a white male lens or even just a white lens as well? And I think there is so much nuance when it comes to diversity. You can't keep putting people into these boxes. So that's why kind of like where a lot of the name was inspired from is that if we are going to do an event, let's say for Muslim people, what does that even mean for us today? Especially if you are a British brand and you want to do this work, you want to do this kind of like outreach. What does that look like? And actually making sure that you're truly representing everybody. Not every you can't, I mean, obviously you can't represent every single Muslim person, but actually making sure that the representation is there because that's important. But also like a lot of what we teach is like who's behind the camera, who's telling those stories, who's working on those briefs. but also who's part of leadership and actually what is the culture like of that business? And do Black people, people of color, disabled people, LGBTQI plus people truly feel like they can, that they belong in the workplace? So it's not just like a one-stop shop. It definitely is a multi-pronged approach if we want to achieve true sort of equitable workplaces.
Yeah. The work you do is amazing. And I know I keep mentioning that, but I genuinely mean it. And it's so easy for me to Google, research what you've done and what you've achieved and the awards. But the reality is, starting a business is not easy.
Yeah.
Tell me some of the challenges that you faced when you started the other box.
When I started the other box,
Yeah, and then anything up to you. So we can go from start, how it felt when you were up and running, and any challenges you face now.
I definitely say it's just growing pains, like, and also there's a lot that, because it's so personal to me, like, and who I am as a person, a lot of it is trying to, first of all, separate myself from the business, especially because I pull so much of myself into the business, but also as well, the sort of, um, just the personal work that I'm doing, just allowing me to mature as a woman, but also like, like I started this when I was like in my mid 20s and now like I'm in my early 30s. So it's really much like the sort of maturity and the development that I've had to go through over the years, as well as then trying to navigate growing a business and a pandemic. And then obviously everything else that's happened since then as well. But I definitely think that sort of at the beginning, like I was still balancing the other box alongside a full-time job. And that balance was very intense. I was also, I was very like scrappy entrepreneur. I was just trying to get us everywhere. And I was always on panels and at events and networking. And that led to burnout very quickly because ultimately, like I wasn't kind of taking the time to just replenish myself, look after myself, which is actually something that I've had to learn to do over the last recent couple of years. But essentially I was saying yes to everything and I wasn't being very sort of discerning with what I was doing. It was kind of just saying yes and then just figuring out later.
Mm.
So I'd like to think I'm a lot more strategic now. But essentially that was kind of like what it was like at the beginning. Balance.
It's really hard though to learn to say no,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning, because you're like, what if I don't get this opportunity again? Or what if this
Yeah.
could have been great? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs or creatives in the industry struggle to know when it's time to say no. Or did you find it was easy for you to identify that you were at burnout, or did someone have to point it out for you?
Oh my God, I lost my voice and that was it.
Well, okay, that was your sign, right? Okay, because I think
Um,
it's also great to have people around you to remind you, because sometimes we are self-aware, but we ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's very much like celebrated as well. Cause I remember, people still say it to me now. It's like, oh, you're everywhere. Like everyone's talking about you. And that's a good thing because it's building that brand awareness. But yeah, I basically got laryngitis and then I developed into pneumonia very quickly. It was like a mild form of pneumonia, but I was still very ill for a good solid chunk of time. And that's just because I was cleaning it, because during the day I was working at my full-time job. And then any spare time that I got, like lunch, mornings, evenings, weekends, it was stuff related to the other box. So like grafting hard. And that's just not sustainable. And yeah, I definitely had to learn the hard way. And it's a lesson that still keeps coming up for me, but I think I'm getting better at it.
You're better at identifying and better at stepping back.
I guess so. I hope so. Yeah, I'm a lot more sort of like mindful about what I commit to and making sure that I actually create space for myself as well in between those things as well.
Good for you, honestly. I know a lot of creatives listening to this are probably going through the phase where they're like, is it time to just rest? Because rest is scary as well. You always think that you're missing out on something. So it's good to hear from you that actually we really do need to replenish.
Yeah, and to be honest, bro, a lot of the creatives that are listening, like what I would also say is really pay attention and budget for yourself. So look at what it would look like for you to not work every single day of the year, but actually take chunks of time out for yourself where you don't have to work, but actually you're able to recharge. Because ultimately, like we're especially right now, especially if you're freelance, it's such a difficult climate. So I think if you're able to really keep an eye on your finances and look at, there's so many guides out there now for budgeting and how to budget more efficiently, and loads of webinars and things like that. And that's content that we'll be putting out over the next year as well. So definitely keep an eye out. But essentially that's like, if that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give to a lot of the people that I mentor as well, is look at your finances and budget accordingly.
And Leah, I started talking about the challenges. Let's talk about the things you enjoy. What do you enjoy about your role?
I mean, every single day is different. Um, I enjoy the transformation that we have in the people who enroll in our education. So whether it is a live workshop or whether it's the digital courses and it's feedback afterwards, but it's that transformation. And it's empowering people with the fact that D&I is not a scary topic. It is not a topic that should just be left to HR, the people team to deal with, but actually we all have a responsibility as people in the societies and the communities that we're part of, but also the community at work. And so I think those light bulb moments, I love them. I get to work with some amazing brands and businesses, ones that I really admire. And the impact that I have now as well, in terms of knowing that through our teachings, we've trained over 25,000 people, hundreds of businesses all around the world. Like that's incredible. And especially like when I truly reflect on like where I've come from, like I grew up on a council estate in in Manchester, and the fact that I've been able to sustain a living for myself, but also have this kind of impact, that's what I enjoy. And then also with the jobs board relaunching, the fact that we'll be able to provide opportunities for people and, get them into their dream businesses that they want to be a part of and things like that. So there are many parts that I love about my job. Yeah.
I knew there was a twang in the accent, so thank you for confirming that. I was like, where is he from? And the jobs board you mentioned, is that for like all industries or is it like a select few job types? Can you tell me a bit more about the jobs board you're launching?
Yeah. So I mean, essentially we're known because of like the where we started. We are known for in the creative industries, but we do work across all businesses and all industries in itself. And for all kinds of roles as well. So whether it's entry level to junior to mid, there will be some senior roles in there as well. But essentially, it's sort of going to be the go-to place for you to just check out working with really cool brands and businesses. Um, Majority of them will also, not majority, but a lot of them will be companies that we've worked with. So we know that they are prioritizing DEI and they're prioritizing safety and inclusion and understanding what it means to truly belong. So yeah, it's going to be a really cool place for you to just get your next job opportunity.
I love that. Can I ask, with your courses and the mentoring that you offer, what do you think people are most shocked to learn about? I know it's hard to pinpoint because it's different for everyone, but can you remember a time where you were like, as you said, a light bulb moment where someone had never even thought that an issue existed or something like that, and they learned something?
Oh gosh, good question. I would say for a lot of people, it's understanding their privilege. And it's not just coming from a white person learning about the privileges they have through whiteness, but also like, as Black and brown people, as heterosexual people, as non-disabled people, people who don't have any chronic illnesses. There are multiple ways in which privilege shows up. And I think because we approach it from a very holistic way, that's usually one of the biggest moments. But that also the idea of like learning about your privilege, how to use your privilege, but also how that relates to things like your unconscious biases. And, for a lot of people, they come into our training with the attitude of, I'm not racist, I'm not homophobic, I'm not sexist, but not understanding that we live in a society where certain identities are prioritized over others. So once we kind of like pull back the curtain, and then you can't really unsee it after that. And that's one of the biggest transformations that we see.
The main thing is at least they see it. I don't know if you've ever had a scenario where people are like, no, I don't see it. I think you're wrong. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, for sure. But but ultimately as well, you can't deny the facts. And for those people, it does take a little bit longer, but eventually like you can't avoid it. So you can be in denial and you can not want to confront those parts of yourself, but ultimately they do exist and you can only hide away from it for so long.
I'm being so genuine about this. I love what you do, Leah, because I've seen a lot of campaigns every now and then, and it's just like, I know that they're trying to speak to me or someone, my friend. I know they're trying to talk to us, but it's like, I know exactly who was involved. I can
Yes.
tell how this idea was formed in your boardroom. And I don't think people realize how important it is. I'm sure maybe you have facts and statistics. It probably just feels like this for me, but Is there an improvement? Are people taking this more seriously?
I'd say people are taking it more. Actually, I don't even generalize like that. I think people are understanding that they need to do they need to do something. But for a lot of people, they are sort of frozen because they're not sure what the next steps are. And we work with businesses who are kind of really well versed in this, but also at the very beginning of their journey. So they
Yeah.
identify that they have a DEI problem. They know nothing about DEI, so they don't even know they have a problem, but they want to start. They want to start the work. So we will in it and work with you at whatever stage that you're at to make sure that you, at the end of this, that you are transformed and you also understand that um, our training isn't going to kind of fix a systemic 500-year problem, but it will give you the tools to start the work and start embedding it as part of your processes going forwards to make sure that you are kind of prioritizing health and happiness. Because essentially that's what DEI is. It is what it means to be healthy, happier human beings who work for majority of the day.
Really. What's next for the other box?
That's a good question.
You're allowed to even tell us.
So for us, sorry, my voice is going. So for us, just growing, reaching more businesses, reaching more people, changing hearts and minds. The jobs board is coming. We've got some more courses being released as well, which is really exciting. We're doing webinars as well. So a lot more sort of like in-person events and workshops and activations. So definitely keep an eye out on our social media and get involved with however you can, whether it is coming to our events or whether it is kind of getting involved in the sort of education side or even sharing the job opportunities. There are multiple ways in which you can kind of get involved and be a part of the movement that we're creating.
And we are going to tag your socials, but just in case somebody wants to type it in right now, where can they find you?
You can find us at theotherbox.org and also on Instagram, Twitter, _theotherbox. Yeah, that's pretty much like the handles. And then also check us out on LinkedIn. I think what I would also suggest, especially for a lot of the creatives listening in, is to really invest time into building your LinkedIn, your connections, the content that you put out on there, because it's such a great way to actually connect with businesses who could use your skills. So a lot of people kind of look down on it and they're kind of like, they have their Instagram and that's it. But ultimately, you have to go to where people are looking, and that is LinkedIn.
What kind of
Can't ask for LinkedIn, by the way.
my LinkedIn? No, I'm joking. What kind of content would you recommend? So someone like me, my LinkedIn is sad, shocking, and I wouldn't even know where to start. Do you have any advice on what you recommend people post on LinkedIn?
Yeah, for sure. Like if there's a piece of work that you're working on, share it and tag the people involved. Or if there's something that has inspired you, share it and say why it's inspired you. Like don't try not to overthink it, but I think ultimately, it's a great place to start recording your achievements as well. So yeah, like for example, like I was at an event the other day. I just did a little blurb about what the event was, why we were invited, and the sort of value that I got out of that. And it did really well. And you never know who's looking at these things, who's sharing these things, and actually who could be passing on your details based on that.
Amazing. For people like me, all I ever see is those viral LinkedIn posts where it's like a joke. You see the ones where it's like, oh, I went to a job interview and I bumped into someone and saved them or whatever. Turns out they were my interviewer and I got, do you remember those?
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, if anyone's got that idea of LinkedIn like me, it's not just for that. Let's start posting. Thank you for that, Leyya. And what's next for you?
Me,
You said you wanted to be separating yourself from the business. Obviously, it's your baby, but you exist outside of that. So, what's next?
yeah, that's a really good question. And without turning it into a therapy session, I feel like
Do it.
okay, what's next for me? I just want to keep growing, learning, and being a better version of myself than I was yesterday or last year or whenever. And I think I also just kind of want to make sure that whatever I do, whatever I say, there is actually like it has impact, it's actually helping people. Because ultimately, I think I've always been a community builder. And I've always kind of recently been looking at what community means to me and that actually what it means for me as a business owner as well. And I really think like um, making sure that I'm yeah, that I'm actually like helping people and actually getting them to where they need to be through the knowledge that I've acquired or like the network that I've been able to build as well. So that's kind of just where I'm at. I'm kind of in this kind of like work in progress. Just remember that meme with Kylie Jenner when she said at the end of the year, and she was like, I'm kind of just like learning things and learning things. That's kind of how I feel like I'm in that state. You put me in a week where I'm just like learning things and just listening to things.
Hey, this is a very valid answer. I wasn't expecting you to be like revealing everything. So I get that. And also sometimes it is literally life. Life is like that. You are literally just learning as you go along. Things change, your perspective changes. I think what's really lovely about you, Leah, if you don't mind me saying this, is that you seem very purpose driven. I feel like everything you do, you're very mindful of like it just from speaking with you, I could be wrong, but I just feel like everything you do has to have purpose and meaning behind it. And that's a really, really lovely way to live. I wish people thought like that more.
Oh, thank you. That's really, really nice feedback. You know, like essentially, like I know even as me, I was trying to give an answer that was personal, but also like I want to be become a better leader, become a better business woman. And but ultimately you're right, like it's all purpose driven and for the greater good and beyond myself. So yeah, I really, really appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
You're welcome. One question I love to ask all our awesome guests is what does authenticity mean to you?
That is a very, very good question.
Take your time if you need to think about it. It is a very, very like deep question. So if it turns into a therapy session, I'm down for it.
um Authenticity, what it means to me. Okay. So I guess I would say living my life according to my own goals, wants, needs, values, my desires, rather than those of other people, which actually, now that I've said it out loud, is easier said than done because it can be really easy to get swept up in the hype of things, wanting to impress people, people please, get to the next level, doing what it takes. So something that I've really been asking myself recently is, do I want this and why?
Is that
Yeah.
for everything?
Yeah, for everything. I think, like especially when I first started the other box, and I'm kind of going into my seventh year with this now. It was very my desires and vision for the future was very different to what it is now. And, especially coming out of the pandemic and everything, what we went through as a collective, and even now as a business owner, trying to navigate a recession and, things just constantly happening that kind of either affect the content of what we do, but also like, you know, societally, economically, whatever it may be, like really making sure like, do I want this and why? Is this a life that I want to live? And am I living how I want? Am I being true to myself? And I'm really questioning that.
I feel like this is such a good place to end, but I know that listeners will be really annoyed if I don't ask this. Any words of advice, or what's your key? If you could even give me one piece of advice that you would give to anyone who's in this industry or a creative.
So something I always say, especially to the people that I mentor as well, is you are the sum of the five people that you spend the most time with. It's something that like my old boss used to say to me like years ago. And it really is about looking critically at your circle of friends, your network, who you spend the most time with. And is that the sort of are they the people that's going to help you get to where you want to be? And if not, how can you expand on that? So really look critically at who do you surround yourself with? What are their mindsets like? What are their drivers? And expand if you need to.
Leah, I could talk to you for hours, but your time is very valuable and that's not going to happen. But I just want to thank you again. I've been really looking forward to virtually meeting you because honestly, what you've done is so inspirational. And sorry, my cat's just walked in. What I love about you is that it wasn't a straight line in terms of your path. You were a graphic designer and you were exploring until finding exactly what it is you want to do. So a huge congratulations for what you've built. And I have no doubt that you're going to be doing something even more amazing in a few years. Honestly, I have no doubt.
Well, that's really, really kind. Thank you so much for having me. I've had a lot of fun.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. That's amazing. Thank you so much.